Oh god, oh god, oh god, what do I do? 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 Decisions. Every living being on the planet has to make them at some point or another. Probably multiple times throughout the day. Yet despite their frequency, they still pose a problem to us. Whether it's simply choosing paper or plastic at the grocery store, picking which mutant pet to become best friends with, or, I don't know, something more complex like deciding whose life to save in a zombie apocalypse, they each present their own unique struggle. To me, one of the best features of the video game medium is its ability to take this inescapable facet of our lives and use it to create a more immersive experience. Telltale's The Walking Dead games are a great example of this. But let's backtrack to the opening scene of this video. If you've played these games, you're probably more than aware of what's going on here. If you haven't, I'll provide context in a second, but before I go further, I gotta warn you. I'm about to have minor spoilers for these games, plus things are gonna get a little graphic. And by the latter, I mean there's gonna be some massive ketchup spills on aisle this. So if you can't handle a bit of blood or gross looking monsters, I strongly suggest you go watch something else. Alright, cool. Now that the losers are gone, we can get to the big boy talk. Shortly before the scene, we find ourselves, a member of a ragtag group of survivors, taking refuge from hordes of zombies by hiding out in a local pharmacy. One thing leads to another though, and the alarm goes off. You know who doesn't like loud noises? Not just your annoying neighbor Bertha, no, it's zombies. I mean, most people don't really like constant loud noises, but zombies really hate loud noises. So they start rushing the place, and before you know it, they're about to feast on two of your friends. Everyone else is dipped, so the only person who can save them is you, and to make matters worse, the clock is ticking, the clock is ticking, the clock is ticking! When using decisions to make a game more immersive, there are three big pillars the designers must follow, in my opinion. This scene right here is a perfect example of the first of them, urgency. By adding a time constraint to a decision like Telltale did, you not only make the event feel more like it's happening in real time, you also provide additional weight to the scenario. This is especially impactful in scenes like the one before you, where there isn't a black or white answer, but rather a sea of gray. With either choice comes the risk of leading someone to a gruesome death, but if you don't make up your mind ASAP, they might both pull a MySpace and die. So after a little thought, if any at all, your hand is forced and you make a split-second decision, hoping for the best. The pain of these moments make them more memorable, and if a game really wants to take the immersive experience a step further, they make their choices have long-lasting consequences. For example, if you save Carley, she'll go on to die an hour later in the story. Wait, did I read the script right? I did, okay, but whatever. It just means my boy Doug was the right answer. Never doubted you from the start, buddy, up top. Oh, you, die nearly the same way Carley did. Okay, What? That doesn't make any sense. What was the point of saving either of you then? Although I don't know the answer to that, my point is that this is a perfect counterexample of the second pillar. While I love Telltale's The Walking Dead, they really struggle in this regard, as it is rare that any of your decisions have long-term consequences outside of maybe Joe Schmo remembering how you scumbagged him in Monopoly that one time. It is essential that any game framed around player-driven narrative have repercussions for their actions, because without which it just feels like you're being tricked. I mean, if two choices are going to produce the same result, it doesn't matter what you pick. And after this happens a couple times, it is really easy to lose interest from the player side of things. Games that do a great job of giving a sense of gravitas behind each of their decisions are Heavy Rain and The Quarry. While their plots greatly differ, they both follow the same basic principle. You, the player, control multiple characters with the sole goal of getting them to the end of the game alive. Miss a jump, pick the wrong turn, or say the wrong thing, and uh-oh, you accidentally killed your favorite character. Knowing that any mistake can have such dire consequences forces the player to make every choice count, and in doing so, builds up tension to a point that really helps emulate the high-stakes scenarios that these games are simulating. Want to notch the fun scale up another level? Sick! You could do so by making your game have several different endings too, putting even more pressure on your decisions while simultaneously adding to the replayability of the game. After all, if you play the Quarry and accidentally kill the character played by Brenda Song on your first playthrough, you gotta go back and redo the game, otherwise you are a monster. She is a national treasure. Are you really gonna sit here and just accept that happened when you have the freedom to change it? Oh, and speaking of freedom, As great as the first two pillars are, they still struggle in that they often need pretty linear gameplay to work, never straying too far from dialogue selection and binary decisions. If you really want to personalize the experience of your video game, let me introduce you to door numero tres, freedom of solution. By giving the players a set of basic rules and or tools and then saying have at it, they have no choice other than to create their own path. Whether it's something simple like the Pokemon series giving you the ability to build a team any way you want, even if it ends up just being your level 100 starter and a bunch of scraps, or something more complex like how Scribblenauts literally lets you summon anything that comes to your mind, there are tons of examples. However, in my opinion, none do it better than Breath of the Wild and its baby brother, Tears of the Kingdom. Why? Well, I'm not the first to say it, and I certainly won't be the last, but the sheer amount of ways you can approach these games makes it impossible for any two players to have the same experience. For example, gotta cross this river? Okay, I could make a boat, or I could make my way to a nearby sky island and float down. Gotta beat this group of enemies? Cool, let me strap on a bomb to my shield and skateboard on it. Gotta help your buddy get to his campsite? No problem, I'll do that after torturing him for several hours. You get the point. There is no correct way to play these games other than the way that you decide. Hell, there are so many fun things to do in the recent Zeldas that I can play them each for 100+ hours and still not want to complete the main objective. I can only think of a handful of games where that's the case, and because of that, I think it goes to show the sheer power that creativity and freedom can have in a game when done right. The crazy part is I think we're just scratching the surface with this. When Breath of the Wild came out, it was so influential that it literally caused a wave of open world games to follow. However, now that time has passed and several of these attempts have failed only for Nintendo to come back for round 2 and one-up themselves with Tears of the Kingdom, I can't help but hope that the industry will realize it wasn't just the open world aspect that made these Zelda games special, but rather it's the one thing that all the titles mentioned in this video did well, and that they gave the players the power to craft their own experience. After all, one of the best parts of the video game medium is that unlike most other forms of media, we can interact with it. Why not embrace that unique element and use it to your advantage? Now, if you excuse me, I have some important decisions of my own to attend to. Sir, that doesn't answer my question. Paper or plastic?